Hello, welcome to my channel. We are now in the museum district of Moscow, and we are going to continue exploring the city center. And here I would like to show you a very special building of an important museum of the art, known as the Pushkin Museum of Fine Arts. So now you will have an opportunity to see this building, which is impressive. So please take a look at it. So the building is known as the Pushkin Museum of Fine Arts. And this is the museum which is one of the biggest museums in our country devoted to the European art. And the building itself dates back to the beginning of the 20th century. That is the time when it was constructed. And initially it was the museum for the students of Moscow University who studied the art. But later it was turned into the public museum, and the collection grew, and nowadays in this museum we have really impressive collection of Byzantine art, European paintings, Italian, Flemish, Dutch, French, German paintings. And also there is a unique collection of Egyptian art in this museum. But this museum, the Pushkin Museum of Fine Arts, is particularly famous for its collection of French Impressionists and post-impressionists. For that collection we have a separate building which is located just near this building, the main building of the Pushkin Museum of Fine Arts. And now I would like to invite you to walk towards the second building, which is also quite nice, where the collection of French Impressionists and Post-Impressionists is kept. So we are going to continue with you, and you are going to see more interesting structures and buildings which we have in this part of the city. So look, it's August, the second half of August, the year 2024. So, roses are just blooming, and it's still summer, even though it's the end of summer. So here I'll need to find a different exit, to exit the grounds of the museum. And while we are walking, you will be able to see some more interesting buildings which we have in this part of Moscow, which is actually not far from Red Square and the Kremlin. It is within walking distance, so roughly about 20-30 minute walk from the area of Red Square and the Kremlin. So, here, let me show you, there is quite an impressive building of greenish color, which is a museum of a contemporary Russian artist, Ilya Glazunov. So modern art is at display in that building. And now we are walking towards the building, which is the place where the collection of French Impressions and Post-Impressions is kept. So it's actually very near. And here, take a look. Just a moment. I would like to show you where we are. So here, Volkhonka Street, and we'll have a map. But, I guess that I will explain everything in detail. So that's the building that you can see now of light green color. That's the building of the Pushkin Museum of Fine Arts, and the place where the collection of French Impressionists and post-impressionists is kept. And here we are going to continue. Look, the day is beautiful. I chose a nice day for this video because I wanted you to enjoy beautiful views here, impressive buildings, and so that's another opportunity to take a look at this museum, which is the Museum of the Contemporary Art of a famous modern Russian artist, Ilya Glazunov. So here I'm waiting at the pedestrian crossing, and while I'm waiting, let me show you the panorama of this place. Yeah, so it's nice and sunny day, and the church that you can see in the video, it's one of the most important sites in the city of Moscow. It is known as the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour, and that's actually the church which I would like to show you from the outside, and it's very impressive. So we are going to take a closer look at this famous cathedral. Well, traffic here is not too bad today, even though sometimes traffic can be quite busy in Moscow. So here there is the entrance to the metro station. It's usually indicated with red letter M. Here this letter is actually hidden by the leaves of the trees, so therefore we cannot see it very well. And okay, so here I'm back. I'm back with you, and I'm taking you to the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour for nice views, for the story of that church. The story is quite interesting, and I'm going to tell you this story. And here you can see the restaurant, like basically pizza, pasta place. And now you will see that from this side, the cathedral is now under the reconstruction. So let me take some more steps so that you can see it better. But we are going to enjoy it from the opposite side, which is not covered in scaffolding at the moment. So here you can take a look. Now I shall probably turn it so that so you can take a look at this cathedral. But what I suggest that we continue our walk and we take a better look at this cathedral from the opposite side. And while we are walking, I would also like to tell you the story of this church. Yeah, let me just move the camera. Okay, so the story of the church is quite impressive. So this church, known as the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour, was built in the 19th century. And the idea to build this church goes back to the war with Napoleon, the War of 1812. And the decision was taken to build a memorial church to commemorate those soldiers who died in the war with Napoleon in the year 1812. And it was a big project, and there were actually several architects chosen for this project, and due to different reasons it took them many years to build the church because the location was changed And finally, at the end of the 19th century, so here you can already see part of it, which is also covered in scaffolding. The church was built and consecrated, and it became a very important landmark in the city of Moscow. But in the Soviet period of time, different changes happened to our city. You know that religion was not important at that time, and a lot of churches were closed, a lot of churches were destroyed, and well, this church unfortunately was completely blown up. In the year 1931, it was totally demolished, because according to the plan of the Soviet government, they wanted to build here an administrative office building known as the Palace of Soviets, and they needed this location, which is great, near the Kremlin, to well, build that high-rise building. Okay, so this beautiful church, the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour, was completely destroyed, and they started the construction of that office building. But then the Second World War began, and they were not able to finish the project. After the war, they had, let me move a little bit, they had other things, they were busy with other things, and they didn't have money for that, and they faced the following problem. There was a huge hole right in the center of Moscow, and let me just find a nice place to show you this church from a different angle. So there was a hole, and they needed to do something with that hole. What did they do? They decided to build a swimming pool. Now you can see. Yes. So finally I chose a really nice place so that you can see this Cathedral of Christ the Saviour well, see it well in detail and enjoy the view. So the swimming pool was built, and it was used for many years. People would come here for a swim, and only in the 1990s, when Moscow was preparing for a very important date for the celebration of its birthday, it was the 850th anniversary of the city of Moscow, the decision was taken to create a total replica of the original church. So this time it was done in record time, so it took them 5 years to build it, and in the year 2000 the construction works were finished and the church was consecrated. The church became the biggest Orthodox church, which can accommodate up to 10,000 worshippers. And on important religious holidays, the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, Patriarch Kirill, conducts the services by himself. Well, that's the sad story of this cathedral, but what is good about this story is that the church, which you can see now, is the exact replica of the original church of the 19th century. And here, in this part of the city of Moscow, we have a bridge, and it is a pedestrian bridge from which you can enjoy nice views of the city, Moscow city center, and I'm now going to walk to this bridge to give you an opportunity to get stunning views. So now we will do that. Today it's actually not too busy in this part of Moscow. Well, there are definitely visitors, but not too many. Okay, so here I am back with you, and yeah, so now we will go to the bridge, pedestrian bridge, and you will have an opportunity to get some impressive views of the city. So the bridge is across the Moskva River, which is the main river in our city. And well, yes, it's the time when many people take boat trips, which are nice, enjoyable in good and sunny weather. Yes, and here is the place from which you can actually do that. But we have some other well, preferences for our day. And yes, now I'm already on the bridge, on this pedestrian bridge, and quite soon I will get to some nice spot from where I will show you the well, the views. Yeah. Okay. Busy, yeah, quite busy. Okay, so let me use the opportunity and show you first of all the monument, which you will be able to see soon. Okay, so take a look. You can see the river. So that's the main river of the city of Moscow, known as the Moscow River. And the monument in the distance, yes, I will now use the zoom to show it to you better. Okay, so that's the monument to Peter the Great. Peter the Great. Peter the Great was a Russian ruler in the 18th century, and Peter the Great founded the regular army and the regular fleet in this country, and generally he was the person who played an important role in the Russian history, because the country definitely became more progressive at that time. And well, usually St. Petersburg is associated with Peter the Great because Peter was the person who founded that city. Why do we have the monument in Moscow? Well, the story is quite simple. You know that initially a modern Moscow sculptor was planning to create a monument to Christopher Columbus and to sell it to the United States. Okay, here we have an ambulance. But in the United States, well, they didn't like this monument to Christopher Columbus, and so the sculptor had to do something with this monument, and he had to change the figure of Peter the Great, Christopher Columbus, into the figure of Peter the Great. And he presented this monument to the city of Moscow. So that's how it got here. And that's why we have this monument dedicated to a Russian ruler, Peter the Great, in Moscow, which is quite unusual. And well, further in the distance you can see the light gray building. That building is the building of a famous art museum in Moscow, which is known as the gallery, the Tretyakov Gallery. So that's the building where we have the collection of the art of the 20th century on display. All right, so here take a look. Well, that's the place. And now we are walking to the opposite side of the bridge, and from the opposite side of the bridge I'm going to show you the Kremlin view. Well, the Kremlin means the fortress. The Kremlin was built as the fortress in the 15th century. So the Kremlin is the place from which the city of Moscow originated. So Moscow is quite an old city. It was founded in the 12th century. So the first settlement appeared here in the 12th century. And the first Kremlin was definitely not made of red brick, which you can see now, but it was made of wood. Therefore, it was not possible to keep it for many, many years, and it was destroyed. It got destroyed with the time. The towers, red brick towers, which you can see now, they were constructed at the end of the 15th century. At that period of time, Moscow got very important status. It became the center of unified Russian lands. Earlier, Russia was not a united country. It had lots of principalities, and the centers were in different principalities. But Moscow had a very good geographical location from the very beginning, and that's the reason, one of the reasons why the city grew rapidly, developed rapidly, and already at the end of the 15th century became the center of the unified Russian lands. So the Kremlin was rebuilt, and the walls, the towers from this place, you can see several towers of the Kremlin. So they were constructed at that period of time. You can also see some structures, some churches which are inside the Kremlin. So they are part of the museum complex. And there we have the yellowish building with a green roof. That's the Kremlin Palace, which dates back to the 19th century. And then you can also see the, well, now it's better. You can see the bell tower, so that's the highest white tower in the Kremlin, and that tower was constructed also at the end of the 15th century. And a number of cathedrals, they are also located on the grounds of the Kremlin. So the cathedrals are several. Why do we have several churches inside? Because one of the cathedrals, it was like the main one, and it was used for coronation ceremonies. And there was a separate church which was used as a burial place. Then there was a home church built. So that's the reason why there were several churches well, inside the Kremlin. Yeah? So the family of the Russian Tsar lived inside the Kremlin initially. But when the capital was moved to St. Petersburg at the beginning of the 18th century, then definitely the family moved to St. Petersburg. Yes, and there was also the place in St. Petersburg for them to live. Well, what else? What else? You can see different ships which are now moving along the river. So these are just leisure boats, and people can just take such kind of cruises and enjoy the views and nice weather. You can also take a look. You can see that the traffic on the embankment, yeah, let me just use the zoom again. So the traffic, okay, it got stuck now. It happens quite often that here, well, cars get stuck and they need to wait. And what else can you see? Well, this gray building, look, it's not attractive at all, but it is quite famous in our city. It's like grayish, brownish building, and it is known as the house on the Embankment. It was constructed in the 20th century, in the 1930s of the 20th century, for very important people of the state. Well, people who were important military, for example, military leaders, political leaders, and, well, who had very high social status, were provided with accommodation inside this building known as the house on the Embankment. It was very prestigious at that time to live in this house. Why? Well, first of all, the location is great, well, was great and is still great. And then it was also done that living in such a house, you could basically get any kind of services, because, well, there were a number of shops, there was a cinema in this house, there were several laundrettes, what else, a kindergarten, and some other services. So for the people, it was very easy to live in this apartment block, and because everything was at hand. And near this building you can see a totally unique complex of buildings. Let me again use the zoom. So now I'm going to show it to you from the bridge first. And actually that's a very unusual example of the architecture which is preserved in our city in Moscow from the 17th century. You can see the church with golden domes, and also you can see the in front of it, yes, a bit closer to ours, you can see this reddish building and with white decoration. So that is actually an example of a residential house of that period of time, 17th century, and it's quite unusual because at that time, if we speak about 16th, 17th centuries, most of constructions in the city were made of wood, and fires happened quite often. So therefore it was extremely difficult to keep wooden constructions, and they got destroyed because of fires. And this construction was made of stone and bricks, and therefore, it has been preserved throughout the ages, and it's really unique example of the residential building right in the center of Moscow. What I would like to suggest, let's walk closer and let's take a look at the very interesting and unusual architecture of that complex. Dear friends, here I have approached the chambers which I wanted to show you, and the church. So it's actually just one complex of buildings on the same plot of land, and it's quite unique, and it's completely off the beaten track. So therefore, I personally just love such kind of places, and in my videos I hope to show you as many as possible. Here I would like to tell you about this lovely church which is just behind me, and also here we have a residential chambers. Yeah, so that's the structure which is a little bit less attractive, and it is just near the church. So now let me just use the special button. Yeah, so please take a look. Here you can see the church known as St. Nicholas Church. It dates back to the 17th century, and the church belonged to a person at that time in the 17th century who lived here. So his name was Averki Kirillov. He was a very influential person at the time of the Russian Tsar Fyodor, who was the elder brother of Peter the Great. And straight ahead you can see the building of red color with white decoration. So that's actually the residential house of that person. Well, unfortunately the building is not in perfect condition, so it needs some restoration, and hopefully they will do that restoration step by step. But what is quite interesting about it is that it is an example of the residential house of that period of time, 17th century. It's totally unique. It has survived from that period of time, and you can take a look at the decoration, at the red brick and a white stone decoration of this house. So who was that person, and why was he so influential that he had a plot of land not far from the Kremlin, and he was able to have a big house according to that period of time? Well, he had a big house here and his personal church. Well, he was quite important. Initially, these lands near the Kremlin, they belonged to the Tsar, and then they were given to the family known as Kirillov family. They owned this plot of land here in the area beyond the Moskva River, and later this person Averky Kirillov, he got this plot of land from his family already, and he also was a merchant and a salesperson. He was quite rich. He had several shops in Moscow and in other Russian cities and towns, and even the Tsar got to know him, and the Tsar offered him a very good position, he was responsible basically for trade and finances of the country at that period of time. And this plot of land was his, and he started to build new house for himself and his family. So that house which I showed you, the chambers, and also the church, because, well, that would be normal to have a church for a person of that position, because people were very religious, and so they would pray a lot, and the house and the church were interconnected. There was like a special covered way between a house and a church. That is how it was arranged. But what also I would like to tell you here, actually, this style of architecture with a lot of different decorative elements became very typical for Moscow in the 17th century, and it is typical for our city, for the city of Moscow. And how can you recognize it? What decorative details can you see in such kind of churches? Well, first of all, you can see that they use different colors. Here we can see not only white color, red color, but also green, yellow. So it looks very, very decorative. And pay attention to the elements, such elements in the upper part of the church, which we call kokoshniki. These are like the special elements. They have the shape of a bit of diagonal shape, and such kind of elements were common for the decoration of churches in the 17th century in Russia. And this element is known as kokoshnik. It's a Russian word which means a headdress for a lady. And these elements, they do not have any architectural meaning, but they are used only as a decoration. But also we can say that there is some symbolical meaning in them, because they remind us of the upper part of a burning candle, the flame, and the flame for Orthodox people was a symbol of the eternity. Well, what else can you see in the church? Well, 5 golden domes. That was quite typical for Russian Orthodox churches. Why 5? One dome dedicated to Jesus Christ and 4 domes dedicated to 4 evangelists. Then what else I would like to draw your attention to? You will be able to see ceramic tiles, which were also used in Russian architecture a lot at that period of time. Let me use the zoom and I would like to show you those beautiful ceramic tiles. Look, they're absolutely nice. Yeah, so you can see them. What else? Let us take a look together. You can see cornices, you can see columns. Wait a moment. Yeah, so cornices, you can see columns. Let me just walk away a bit so that you can get a better view in the decoration. And there is a porch, as you can see, and the porch is decorated with a tent. That was also common for that architecture of the 16th, 17th centuries in Russia. And the tent is decorated with a drop ornament. Yeah? So that's basically it regarding the peculiarities of the decoration and the style. We can call like the Russian decorative style of the 17th century. Well, I hope that you enjoyed looking at this bright Orthodox church, which is dedicated to Saint Nicholas, the patron saint of travelers. And if you like my videos, if you enjoy works with me, you can sign up for my channel. So thank you and goodbye.